Those master-style titles, they say, hello. We are the king of spicy pork stir-fry.
Welcome you. This is our famous dish. Enjoy this fish head.
I mean, it's how they introduce themselves. They're gone.
Discussion keeps the world turning.
This is Roundtable.
For years, a shouted slogan at one of China's most popular restaurant chains made a single chef a household name. Then, this summer, it disappeared overnight. Not because the food failed, but because the title behind it no longer existed. And he was just the beginning. Across industries, thousands of so-called masters are suddenly losing their status as new national rules rewrite who gets to claim expertise. So, what were these honors really worth? Why is China wiping them out now? And why is one chef at the center of it all? This is the quiet unraveling of a system built on titles. After that, real dancers, real choreography, real productions, but no theater. No stage, no audience in seats, just a phone screen and a live stream. This is the new frontier for China's performing arts, as more and more professional dance troupes take to social media. But the same platforms that give these artists access to new viewers also reward speed, spectacle, and virality over discipline and craft. So, when the curtain goes up on a vertical screen, is it still art or has it already become something else entirely? Coming to you from our studios in Beijing, this is Roundtable. I'm Steve Hatherley. Thanks so much for being with us for this episode. And for the show, I'm with Yushun and Fei Fei. Fei Fei and Yushun, thanks for being here today. I'm excited to talk about this because this is kind of a story about food, but yet it's not really a story about food. It's kind of about restaurants, but not really about restaurants. But it's absolutely about titles. That much we know. So let's get into it. Let's talk about what's happening right now, Yushun, and find out what the actual trigger of all of this was.
Yeah, and this whole thing isn't a sudden one-off move because it's the latest step in a regulatory arc that's been building for over a decade. And the direct trigger is a kind of new national regulation. It's called the Measures for the Administration of Rating and Commendation Activities by Social Organizations. And this new regulation is jointly issued by the authorities, which took effect on August 1st, 2026.
Oh, so this is brand new then.
Yes, and that's why the whole thing is quite new, and we are discussing it. And this new regulation bars unapproved organizations from running some kind of city, a hometown of something, base of something, naming campaigns aimed at cities, counties, townships, and villages. Like, if you're awarding some places as the city of blah, 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 like a city of the jade, a city of the pearl, you cannot do that.
You can't do that anymore. Yeah, this isn't about food specifically. I mean, Fei Dachu is kind of the face of this story, but it's much bigger than that. So just to be clear on what you just said, so if you have a town and the town wants to claim, like, we are the town that is famous for... fill in the blank, they can't use things like the hometown of blank or the base of blank. And that applies to cities and counties and villages and whatever. It doesn't matter the size.
And also other titles like national, like China, Asian, a world. You want to have a title like that to a like designated thing. You cannot also do that without any approval.
So you need to go through some approval or registration process to be able to use a name or an award to hold an award program under the name of, for example, if I want to start my own China Laptop Association, is not something I can just start right now from here. I need to go through some process and to make sure I have the qualifications and resources to start a China Microphone Association.
Oh, it's now a micro. Just a moment ago, it was a laptop association.
Oh, sorry.
See, that's why you're not trustworthy. You can't even decide on your product. No, yeah, I get it. So putting China in front of that, just like putting hometown in front of that thing, you can't do that anymore either. All right. So you said that this isn't a sudden crackdown. This is a bit of a decade-long arc. How far are we going back here, and what was kind of the kickoff point?
Yeah, back in 2012, actually, China's first regulations governing these kind of association-issued awards take effect. And then it's 2018, award programs using like national level designations become subject to stricter approval requirements. And then it's 2022, organizations seeking to launch new honorary recognition programs are required to hold at least it's called 4A rating on the country's social organization rating scale. So this 4A is more like, there is a kind of a tier system for these social organization rating system from like 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A to 5A. 5A is the ceiling. And it's basically you need to have some very solid and qualification, as you said, to be this kind of 5A system. I think one example is the China Charity Foundation. That I don't know the full name of it, but I think China Charity Foundation is one of the 5A organizations.
And the reason the China Charity Foundation, for example, is able to use that title China is because they are above a 4A qualification.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about food here. We're talking about cosmetic surgery. Claims there as well. We're talking about jade carvings. That's an interesting one. Wedding services. Tea.
Yeah,
This
that's
is-
a prominent example.
Yeah, I can see tea. Wedding services is a little bit confusing to me.
So I think that's also sort of reflects the scale of this problem. I mean, most people won't think, somebody calls him or herself as the master of something or having the name of China something something association. It's not that a big deal. But when you see that from an industry point of view, anybody like wedding services, they can also launch something like I'm the, master of a certain wedding services.
Yeah, the king of weddings.
Yeah, why, how, who made you the king of weddings?
Yeah.
That is one of the reasons I think why authorities decide to step in and take measures to sort of making sure you are what you are.
I don't think it is like 100% a bad thing, because if we have these kind of association, it's because I think for a lot of the cases, this whole industry needs an association. And for that wedding thing, I think a lot of people that are claiming or complaining about is there are just no very clear standard for a wedding ceremony service. Sometimes it can be really, really expensive. And that's when a lot of these associations are here and saying, okay, we can maybe make a more standardized industry for everybody.
So regardless of the industry, those master style titles are being revoked.
Or even abolished. on
Just
some level.
they're gone.
Yeah.
Overnight, which is
Yeah.
what I mentioned when we got started with this. I want to talk about the culinary world more specifically. Since that restaurant, the pork stir fry restaurant, is kind of the face of this conversation for today. The title Chinese Culinary Master, I mean, there was a time when this title held a lot of water. To hold that on your resume, to have that on your resume, or to be able to put it on your name card,
Yeah.
it meant a lot, and it meant that you were a true culinary master.
Yeah, at least I think that title, the system of having the Chinese culinary master or Chinese catering service master, aimed to mean something in the beginning. I mean, in the first place, in the year 2000, actually, the China Cuisine Association formally evaluated the first batch of Chinese culinary masters. And they took things very seriously at that time. They selected 55 masters 48 famous chefs, that's 103 people in total, out of a pool of 5.8 million chefs nationwide.
Unbelievable. Can you imagine being named a Chinese culinary master or a famous chef, which is another title that you can have? Out of 5.8 million people, they picked out basically 100 people that qualified for that.
Yeah, you're the best of the best, and you are, I think, totally deserve the name of master because there are certain like criteria for you to be actual master.
And the criteria is really steep. So at that time, in order to have one of those titles, you needed 25 plus years of frontline experience. You needed a published professional work. I'm not sure what that would look like. I'm guessing it's some sort of maybe a
Recipe book?
cookbook or some sort of papers or something like that. You needed at least 10 original signature dishes. You also needed to have personally trained 5 plus senior technicians by yourself. Now, that changed. If we fast forward here to 2015, the association shifted from a formal registration system with tiered requirements. So it got even stricter at one point.
Well, for example, the Chinese culinary famous chef title have the standards. For example, you need to age above 30 and have 10 plus years of experiences. You need to hold a technician level of certificate or has already held a professional level of master title for at least 1 year.
So for the famous chef, you needed to be over 30, but to be a culinary master, you needed to be even older than that. Finally, an advantage to being older.
Yes. And so at one point, I think these titles of masters or being called famous chefs actually meant something. Actually, is something the restaurant, at least for most of the culinary masters or chefs, I assume they work in a certain restaurant. And the restaurant can take advantage of this title and be proud of we have or at least help cultivate such masters in the past. But along the way, I mean, fast forward to 2026, I think the picture and the image of a culinary master or a famous chef has somewhat shifted in a way.
This is part of the problem. When you have titles like famous chef or culinary master, it used to mean something a long time ago. But as you said, Fei Fei, somewhere along the way, something changed. And people who were not actual culinary masters, by that definition, by that very strict definition, either from the year 2000 or from the year 2015, people who didn't hold those qualifications were suddenly getting the title, well, I'm a culinary master too. I'm also a famous chef. But they didn't deserve those titles. And one of the reasons they were receiving those titles is because they were winning competitions or being given out those, in some cases, or being given those titles from places that weren't qualified to give those titles.
And that's why after the new regulation, new measures that we just mentioned at the beginning, the China Cuisine Association announced in late July 2026 that it would clean up and also revoke various titles it had previously awarded, including the master's, famous chef, and the king of something, with related certificates becoming invalid immediately.
And I think I also want to point it out here that the China Culinary Association is not like a government-backed agency. It's more like an industry organization that mostly are like restaurant operators, chefs, staff, service staff, or food writers or industry bodies that are part of this organization. So that also brings another problem that make the title of famous chefs and masters less trustworthy on some level is because the standards, for instance, start to have the problem of inconsistency. I mean, you can understand that because when judging a dish, whether it's tasty or not, can be a very subjective thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you for example, Yushun would like his short ribs to be on the sweeter side of things. I like my short rib on the salty side of things. It doesn't mean who is right or wrong here, but but when you are judging a dish, a type of cuisine based on different standards, And that meaning sometimes a master that shouldn't be qualified as masters was titled master.
Well, I mean, if the institution that's giving out the title is not qualified 4A or 5A to be giving out these titles, well, then there's a couple of problems there. Number one, the industry gets diluted, right? So all of a sudden, instead of 103 master chefs or famous chefs in the year 2000, now you have countless, maybe hundreds of thousands, who knows, right? So the market gets diluted. And then, like you said, Fei Fei, the level of trust, maybe that's too extreme to say it, but it's just the weight that comes with that title starts to be a little less impactful.
Yes.
Because if you walk into a shopping mall, for example, and there are a bunch of restaurants there, and every restaurant says Master Chef, Master Chef, Master Chef, Master Chef, well, then it loses its meaning a little bit.
Yeah, and also when it comes to the hierarchy structure of the master chef titles, is that not only we have like a national level of culinary master chefs, we also have provincial level of master chefs, and then municipal level, and then county level. Imagine how many master chefs titles we're giving, these associations is giving out every year.
Right.
And that also help with the dilution of the weight of these titles.
Well, another big issue with the lessening impact of the title itself, there was a point in time, and this goes beyond just chefs, by the way, there was a point in time where you could literally buy the title online.
Yeah, and it's been reported by a lot of medias and showing that this has become a resale market of their own. And I saw it from domestic media outlet Zaker. One industry insider told reporters a China Hotel Association certificate was going for around 3,200 yuan. That's around $450.
So this extends to the hotel industry too.
Yes, and that China Cuisine Association certificate had been marked up to as much as 12,000 yuan. That's around more than $1,600. And the industry insider also noted that a decade ago, when far fewer organizations issued these certificates and prices were much higher because the credential was rarer. But as the number of organizations authorized to issue the so-called Chinese Culinary Master Certificate grew to what he estimated at over 1,000 issuing bodies nationwide, which means that more than 1,000 organizations can give you a title of the master of something.
Famous chef.
Yeah.
And also these kind of master status start to have spillover effects on the market to something else. For example, the disciple ceremonies and training programs.
Well, this is an important point because, if we're talking about why this is beneficial to
why people paying like 10,000 yuan for a title like this.
Yeah, exactly. Why do that? Why spend 12,000 for that title of Master Chef certificate or whatever? There are economic reasons for this. It's not just for your own ego, hotel certificates, hotel association certificates as well. It's about what you can do with these certificates, with these titles after you acquire them.
Yes, for example, some masters, well, most of the masters take on apprentice, and it's very common in China. And in extreme cases, the fee can reach over to 30,000 yuan, which is over $4,400.
It's expensive.
Just for the privilege of being accepted by a master as a disciple. And it doesn't mean the master actually is training this person and teaching the best of the culinary arts to that person. Just winning the title, and you can brand yourself as I'm the disciple of a certain master.
I think it's pretty easy to see the problem there, right? If you don't have a diluted market and you sign up for, to be the apprentice of this master level chef, I'm doing that a lot today, but I think it's appropriate. And this person has 30 plus years, 25 plus years experience. They have published works. They have 10 signature dishes. You're going to feel like that's money well spent, right? And it probably is money well spent. But if you don't know where that certificate came from, then that's kind of a warning sign for people to dig a little deeper into whether they want to sign up for a program like that. But from the person who's holding the certificate, the economic advantage is quite obvious.
And from another perspective, a lot of people who would like to pay for that kind of money and get a title of the disciple of some master is also because maybe someday they can also to be long enough of a disciple, and then they can be a master themselves, and then they can brand themselves as a master for another restaurant and then make money again. So that's a kind of an ecosystem now.
Yeah, they can build their own small network of disciples as well.
The title can be a very useful thing for a restaurant. Let's focus on the restaurant in question here. Fei Chu. It's a really famous restaurant here in China.
Yeah.
In fact, after I first moved to China and I was asking Yushun for restaurant recommendations around this area where we work, it's the very first place that you recommended that I go.
Yeah, and that was the moment that I think first tried this restaurant, and you were asking something really, really, really spicy, and that's the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah. Now, we should note that the dish in question is a spicy pork and pepper stir fry with some kind of mushrooms.
Yeah, woodier
Woodier mushrooms
woodier.
that are very crunchy and delicious. It's an amazing, amazing dish. This dish is not a dish that was created by this restaurant.
No, it's like a family dish.
Right.
Yeah,
it's very common in Hunan area, that's in southwest China.
In central China,
yeah.
Hunan province.
Yeah, the point I want to make here is that this is just a dish you can find at a bunch of different restaurants.
That's
Exactly.
true.
But this restaurant in particular became famous for this dish. So let's talk about what exactly happened here with this story.
First of all, we know that this is quite a famous restaurant, right? And then in late July 2026, the China Cuisine Association announced what we said, all of the previously awarded titles, along with their certificates and uniforms, were immediately invalid. And then that's the moment also this restaurant started to remove the title because they used to use the name of the king of this specific dish, the king of stir-fried pork.
What's the dish in Chinese, by the way?
辣椒炒肉。
辣椒炒肉。
你好，你好。
Yeah,
全国小炒到。
That's what they, yeah.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
Create a kind of brand and let you remember how they do this. And this video went viral on social media.
And also other restaurants are copying. Like I went to this fish head place. They also have something similar to that. They present you the dish and they start to welcome you. This is our famous dish. Enjoy this fish head.
Yeah. So the person who's working, the waiter or the waitress, comes to the table and the ni hao, they say hello. We are the king of spicy pork stir fry. I mean, it's how they introduce themselves.
Yes.
That's an important point because it shows that they did really take advantage of this title. And I want to say, before we talk about how they got this title, this restaurant didn't do anything wrong. They didn't do anything wrong. All they did was take advantage of a title that they won in a competition.
Yeah, they didn't fabricate it.
No.
Yeah,
not at all.
everything is technically legit. They got the title, they used the title, they put the title as the brand of themselves. And I think they also used the title to be famous. And of course, economically, a lot of consumers, diners go for this restaurant for this title because just very virually spread on the internet, and they just want to try. Okay, I want to see how it tastes as the king of the.
That's actually my first reaction when I saw that poster. They're calling themselves the king of pork stir fry. I was like, who gave you the guts? Call yourself that.
Well, we can answer that question as a matter of fact. So in November of 2020, now remember, this is during COVID times, right? In November of 2020, the China Cuisine Association, the one we've mentioned a couple of times already, they co-hosted an online event. It was a national stir-fried pork competition. And it was online. Now, COVID times, right? But immediately, you're thinking online food competition.
Live streaming.
How does that work, right?
Yeah.
So here's what they did. They had to submit a 3 to 5 minute vertical video of themselves, the chef or chefs, cooking the dish, plus photos of the finished dish. And they submitted that video. And then scoring combined public online voting and also judges who were watching the submitted videos.
Everything is based on the videos.
Yeah.
I almost guessed that they invented something that can transfer the
Vertical,
taste
yeah.
and smell now.
No. So Fei Chu, the founder, won the public vote. 19,000 votes. And that's how they got the title, because the winner got the title National King of Stir-Fried Pork. And from that time, he also got a Golden Chef honor as well. But from that time, that's when that restaurant was able to use that title, the King of Stir-Fried Pork. And that's why I said they didn't do anything wrong. They entered a competition, an online competition, and they won the title King of Stir-Fried Pork. All they did was take advantage of that title. But the reactions online were a little...
Yeah, of course, if you're judging a dish through videos and photos, I mean, especially
Just by how it looks.
for a dish like a stir-fry pork, I mean, when it comes to the stir-fry pork, I think a lot of people, not only the the peppers and pork, it's very important, but also the concept of guo qi.
What's guo qi?
Is the sense of stir fry under extraordinary heat that can create that fragrance in your dish, which is essential in a stir fry.
That you can only taste through a dish that's cooked by that
Wok.
iron pot and that
With the
stove.
flames dancing
Yeah.
up the side.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what people are looking for when they especially try this stir fry pork dish. How can you judge that fragrance?
Through a video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why
exactly.
I think people online are not really trust this kind of competitions.
Okay, so now with the new regulations, the title of King of Stir-Fried Pork revoked, gone, overnight. It disappears. What did the restaurant have to say about this?
The founder of this brand actually also kind of publicly or in their company kind of published that, saying the company totally understand what this regulation is about, what the direction that all these measures is going to do, and we will immediately also go along with this new principle. And I think that's why they removed all of their titles of being the king of something.
Yeah, they change it into something like premium pork stir fry
Yeah.
in all of their restaurants' slogans.
And I think online reactions gave them quite fair comment because, well, people will say, I don't trust this restaurant, this title anymore because you're just get the king title from some videos and pictures. And others are saying, okay, no matter what, I went there, I tasted it, and I think they deserve this title.
Yeah.
I mean, that's public opinion,
Yeah.
right? Which is fine. But economically, I mean, we can't draw a straight line between the title of King of Stir-Fried Pork and how many dishes they sold, which, by the way, in 2023, Fei Chu was selling around 5 million servings of just that dish per year. And the revenue from that dish alone exceeded 1 billion yuan. That's about $140 million. Now, again, we can't directly draw a line between the title, winning the title
Of the king.
of the king, and $140 million revenue. We can't say one directly caused the other.
But I think it's a factor. It's a factor. I
No
mean,
doubt it's a factor,
for Fei Chu, they charge like 68 yuan.
which is more than what other restaurants
Yeah,
charge.
which is about 30, 40 yuan for a dish for a stir-fry pork. So I think definitely there is a factor. They have the reason to charge you more for this dish because they're the king. They call themselves the king of the stir-fry pork. And people are willing to pay for the 68 yuan, I think almost double the price of other places because, well, they're the king of this. Why not try it? And I think it definitely is a factor, but I won't say it's a deciding factor. It's not like customers are saying, I'm only trying this dish because they're the king of the stir-fried pork. They're famous, they're popular. Definitely part of the reason is also because it's good. The dish is good.
It's delicious.
Yeah, it's delicious. It has the perfect combination of pepper, pork, and the woodier crunchiness. So I think, and also when it comes to the service side of it, when you see the waiter waving at you, ni hao, we are the this and that, also give you the entertaining side of dining out. That is also one of the reasons they are one of the biggest popular restaurants in China.
But would they have been that popular had they not gotten the title of King of Stir-Fried Pork? That's a question we will never know the answer to, right? So it's not fair to speculate. But it is, back to the heart of this issue, what we're talking about here is that whether their dish is delicious or not is kind of a moot point. It doesn't matter. The point is that they were given their King of Stir Fry title through an online competition that is not seen as a properly recognized way to get a title like that, which is why. And again, I want to make the point again, we're just using this restaurant as an example because this is what was in the news, but it extends far beyond the food industry. But this is why this is why they are making the move to say all of these king of titles, all of these master titles, all of them are going to go away now because of the potential economic benefit that you could receive through sales of your product or through apprenticeships or what have you. And you can't use that as a marketing tool anymore.
I'm wondering, Steve, do you have like similar cases elsewhere in the world? Like, I'm not sure if it's chefs or a wine taster or somebody else, a coffee maker, barista, for instance, took advantage of a competition they enrolled to and then won a title somehow and then start to take advantage of that and build a brand around it.
That's a lot of questions.
It's like a big pot of stir fry.
I'll get back to you in a week. I want to talk about New Zealand, though, because this is an issue that extends beyond China's borders. This is a really interesting thing to share. Back in 2024, there was an investigation by the New Zealand Herald, a local media publication there. And they looked at the country's food award system. And what they found was huge differences in how selective different competitions could be. So the one that kind of stood out to me was about a cheese competition. So it was called the Champions of Cheese Awards. And they gave medals out to the competition winners. There were 253 products, 253 different cheeses submitted to the competitions. 187 of those submissions.
More than half.
Way more than half, almost 3/4, 74%. 187 out of 253 were awarded. So
they just got so many categories and everyone can get an award.
I don't know how.
Like a kindergarten's competition.
Participation awards, right? So 74% of entrants received an award. Now, what's the significance of that? If you won an award, what can you do? You can slap that label onto your product. Award-winning cheese.
So that's where a lot of this award-winning
Coffee beans,
wines, chips, whatever.
burgers.
Yeah, well, potentially, yeah. Also, they found in New Zealand the Outstanding Food Producer Awards. They gave awards to, out of 355 products, 261.
Oh,
That's
even more than.
close. So yeah, it's
73.5%. It's almost exactly
precisely
the
like
same.
a kindergarten's competition. Everybody gets award.
Yeah. Now, by comparison, I don't want to paint the picture that New Zealand's just throwing out cheese awards every day, because they're not. By comparison, other competitions only recognized about 2% of entrants. But the point there, through that 2024 investigation by the New Zealand Herald, is that it's the same here in China. It's just an uneven distribution of who's receiving these things.
It's more of the industries get together, have fun together, giving out award together, and so in the future they can have a easier marketing or branding way in outside to the public.
I mean, this is going to make a difference. Obviously, it's going to make a difference to brands, but not all brands, right? Legacy brands are going to be able to continue to keep their titles.
Yeah. And, of course, these kind of brands that with these, let's say, intangible cultural heritage title, and because they are legit, like
Inheritors of these titles.
of course, and then they will still have these kind of titles. But it's just because we have these kind of China Cuisine Association revoked all of these titles. And maybe some of these restaurants have a wall of the masters, they will just remove that. And if they're branding their dishes as the dish of a master's pick, then it will not be available anymore. But the thing is that there are systems that is legitimately giving people certificates and showing their actual techniques and skills, state-run vocational skill level certifications, and also intangible cultural heritage, as we mentioned, transmitter designations issued through government channels, not trade associations. They are still remaining valid and are expected to carry more weight going forward as more, rigorous and less commercialized signals. And I actually quite shocked by the whole situation, the phenomenon of these association thing. Because back then we had the discussion of, okay, we know that there are like Sichuan Hot Pot Association. We always thinking, oh, it is such a good thing that there is a place to promote that specific cuisine or local culture and traditional type of food. And now we're also seeing another side of the establishment of a lot of these associations. Maybe that's how it works. Maybe some of the associations, they are kind of also, quote unquote, commercialized in a little bit.
Yeah, because when it comes to these industry associations, I mean, I get why they need these kind of organizations because as an industry, you need a place to build a network, to know where and discuss and decide even where your industry is going, and even to pick the talents that you want for your industry. But it still are businesses getting together. And when businesses are getting together, they will talk about things like benefits, revenues, branding, and marketing. And somehow they sort of tilted towards a somewhat, I won't say it's wrong direction, but it's definitely not a direction where in the industry as a whole want to go to. For example, for the culinary industry, I don't think they want to see their master titles and famous chef titles are being diluted to this point.
Sure.
They're won't be happy to see, for example, for the first batch of the masters that stood out in close to 6 million of chefs.
Who deserved to have that title.
They won't be happy to see their title of masters being downgraded to today, that people are just thinking you're just buying your titles.
I think the opposite. I think they might be happy with this.
Finally.
Because they've been watching the market become diluted with all these, I'll do it for the last time, these master chefs, knowing full well that they weren't. And even though they're losing their own potential market strategy of calling themselves a master, rightfully so, they'll still, people know who these master chefs are by now.
Yeah.
I think.
A delicious dish is a delicious dish.
But the people who don't deserve those titles, those are all gone. Yeah. I'm curious to go back to the Fei Dachu because, ni hao, we are quite good at making stir-fried pork when compared to other restaurants.
It's not as catchy.
Doesn't roll off the tongue as fast as the king of stir-fry does.
But I guess for customers, it doesn't really matter on some level as long as the stir-fry still tastes as good.
Yeah, right now I think it doesn't matter anymore. But at the beginning, people were also complaining because this restaurant, people line up for probably 2 hours for just one spot.
Oh, at dinner time, you're the local one where you and I go. You're at dinner time. You're lucky to get a table.
Yeah, and that's why people are complaining about. It's just a very common family dish. Why are you just standing in lines for hours to get that? And at that moment, they use this phrase, they use their dish to get that popularity. And now I don't think they will need it anymore.
Yeah, but what about for new restaurants? Then they can really focus on, the dish, the culinary skills of themselves, really, not only thinking about, where can I buy a master title or some sort of famous chef title and then slam it on the door to make myself famous.
Can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a good thing.
Well, I know what I'm having for dinner tonight after this conversation at that restaurant or anywhere. Listening to the description that Fei Fei gave us about the flames dancing up the side of the wok to create that fragrant smell. Delicious. Yeah, an interesting move, isn't it, here in China? So, you could have up until maybe as late as a couple of weeks ago, walked down the street and seen those posters on restaurant walls or different types of businesses too. Master of this, king of that. But now today, walk down the streets and those posters will have been disappeared. What will it mean for the market afterwards? How will customers respond? I think we're going to have to wait a while to see how that goes. You're with us here on Roundtable, and we thank you for joining us today. And we ask you to stick around because we have more to discuss. You're with us on Roundtable. I'm Steve Hatherley today with Fei Fei and Yushun. Coming up, China's biggest performing arts companies are ditching the stage for the algorithm, and traditionalists are wondering if moving from the grand theater to the small screen means sacrificing something essential in the art itself. Supporters, however, say that this is a great opportunity to bring performances to audiences who may have never seen them before. It's an interesting topic, and we'll see if we can find some answers. Don't forget that you can find us at Roundtable China on Apple Podcasts, and also don't forget that we love hearing from you too. So here's how you can get in touch. Roundtable Podcast at qq.com. You can send us an email. You can send us a voice note as well. You can talk about any of the things that we discuss here on the show or anything that happens to be on your mind. Once again, Roundtable Podcast at qq.com. All right, so this is another live streaming story, which we do talk about a lot on Roundtable, but we usually talk about live streaming from an e-commerce point of view, but this isn't so much about the e-commerce side of things, although there is an element of that perhaps. This, though, is more about bringing an art to a place where you wouldn't typically see that art.
Yes, for a lot of performing arts, actually. And when I'm saying performing arts here, I'm seriously talking about stage arts, like dance dramas, like traditional Peking operas or traditional Cantonese operas. And I'm talking about a whole storyline, but they're not only staging the whole storyline, but these art troupes are participating, joining the live streaming world as well. We have a very famous concept in the live streaming industry called group live streaming, meaning more than one people participate, host one of those live streams. And so what happens is a lot of the dancers from these art troupes, mostly from local art troupes, for example, from the Jiangsu Art Performance Group Opera and Dance Drama Theater, they start to stage their signature ink-painted Jiangnan, a dance poem inspired by the landscape and aesthetics of southern China, Jiangnan. That's what Jiangsu and Zhejiang is famous for. And they are starting to performing bits and skits from this big drama to one of their live streaming sessions.
So when you go on the live streams, what you can see is the performance or elements of the performance that they would do if they were on a stage in front of an audience.
Yeah, and we mentioned the idea of group live streaming or group dancing is actually a form of bunch of dancers, I would say. They will dance together and then they will in turns, one after another. And it is quite popular, and their quality has been raised to even sometimes cinematic levels. The transition, the special effect, and everything. And that's why I think a lot of people on social media or these short form video platforms really like them, and they're, I think, paying a lot to actually just to praise how good they're dancing. And now we're having another, I think, category of the dance performance into these live streaming rooms and platforms, and then they're not only seeing these kind of, I would say they're not that totally amateur dancers, but I mean previously the dance group thing, but they're not that professional as what Fei Fei just mentioned.
Yes.
These kind of performance art.
And we're not just talking about a few or a couple experimental performance by a number of art troupes. Actually, dozens of quite famous performances are also doing the same thing. I think the most prominent and well-known production would definitely be the poetic dance. The journey of a legendary landscape painting, 只此青绿.
I watched it in the theater.
Do you like it?
Marvelous.
I want to ask, so culturally, are these, and you've mentioned a couple of performances already, a couple of different titles. These are really important culturally. Everybody knows these titles. Everybody knows about these performances.
Yes, for example, 只此青绿, the poetic dance, they were staged as part of the Spring Festival Gala one year, and
That's when it got popular and more people know it.
Okay.
And then I think one of the reasons that they got into these live streaming platforms is because they are famous, and they got the reputation of being the signature of the performing art here in China, and that's why I think they want to reach out more audience through this new way.
They're getting support. This new development, these dance troupes, these dance troupes, are getting institutional support as well. It's under the guidance of the Market Management Department of China's Ministry of Culture and Tourism. The big shows on group streaming. It's called the Classic Production Support Program. It was recently launched, and because of this, or for this, I should say, particular program, Douyin, one of the platforms, is offering cash incentives. They're offering online traffic and visibility support. They're offering revenue sharing incentives for these troops. They're offering operational guidance as well, that's kind of a cool thing when the platform is offering to help you out in how to be successful on their platform. They're getting a lot of support.
Yes.
So that they can be successful here.
Yeah.
The question I have a few questions, but why are they getting this level of support when this is typically an art form, a beautiful, traditional, culturally important art form that would be reserved for the stage for the most part? Why is this getting such backing from government organizations and platforms to make sure that they can try to be successful?
Well, I think the answer is sort of multi-layered. There are a lot of reasons and factors behind. One of it has to do with something that the online contents that we are seeing in recent years. For example, when we're talking about group live streaming in China, not only in China, I think it's also very popular on TikTok in other parts of the world. When we're talking about group live streaming, most people will start to think they're definitely not very sophisticated, and to the point that some contents can be vulgar, can be inappropriate. And also when it comes to live streaming in general, not only about this group live streaming, a lot of live streamers would have acts like entice their audience to pay to send gifts. During a live stream, you can send gifts to the live streamer, which you pay with your own money to send those gifts. Some gifts are very cheap, 1 or 2 yuan. Some can be more expensive. And I think on some reports, we've seen people spend thousands and even tens of thousands of yuan on these live streamers. And they have some of the live streamers have tactics to entice audience to pay more and more and more and more, for their own benefits, of course. And of course, from the government authority point of view, they don't want to see this kind of phenomenon grew from the industry side for the live streaming industry.
So the internet authorities, if you will, are seeing developing trends happening on the internet through live streams that they're not particularly excited about. One is an economic issue, perhaps, of these live streamers getting gifts cash gifts sometimes from their fans, from their followers. The other is more of a content issue where some of the content might be deemed as inappropriate. The inappropriate content part I can understand, although the part about getting gifts from your fans, if you're an influencer, cash gifts, isn't that just part of the business? Part of how it goes?
I think that's also one of the reasons that these forms, these group dancing are getting popular because they use these kind of tactics to attract more audiences because this is a little competition between different streamers. And then if you vote for this one or you pay more for this one will win. And then there will be little fun punishment games for the losing one. So I think this is the foundation of the whole business of these group dancing thing. This is a really, really popular industry. This is a really big market, and more people are going to these platforms just for watching these shows. And there are actually stats showing that, the whole market of these live streaming, together they had live streamed more than 16,000 performances, and by late June this year, 57 professional arts organizations across China had begun regular group live streaming on Douyin, which means that so there is a huge audience base on this form of live streaming. It's just the content if people are just changing it into probably more artsy
I think
things.
another reason is when we're talking about theatrical arts, I think we talked about it on Roundtable before, is a lot of different forms of theatrical arts are facing threats and challenges in today's market simply because they cannot cultivate a very big base of audience. They cannot generate enough revenue to survive in today's market. And then we have very booming live streaming market going on in the country. Why not take advantage of such platform?
Yeah, but not everybody is loving this. Well, the responses that I saw from the dancers themselves saying, it's kind of a different challenge from being on a stage. You have a camera directly in your face and the preparation is a little bit different and things like that. But there are also people, and I think Yushun is one of them,
Yes.
who perhaps think that taking an art form as precious and as culturally significant as these ones, and putting them into a market where it's typically flooded with amateurs who are, perhaps a group of teenage girls who are like, hey, I'm doing the latest pop dance move with my 4 friends, putting that directly next to some trained professionals. You don't necessarily, and other people don't think this is necessarily the best move.
Yeah, I'm not trying to criticize which one is better or saying that this one doesn't deserve to be like this. It's just, why do we have to reshape everything like this just to appeal to a certain group of people that we have to make it fit in a short form video platform? It feels like we are making a lot of things to be on social media and short video platforms. We do recruitment, we do blind dating on these short video platforms. And now it's just, I know previously probably people do that for a little bit fun, but this one, I think we also need to show a little bit of respect to some of these art forms that if it is supposed to be on a stage and you should watch it in the theater, why don't you just go to a theater and watch it? Of course, there can be advertisement on social media, but that should be just a clip of it. And it's just a method of promoting this thing.
That art was not created
For this.
Or
that-
fun.
Yeah.
for fun or for these platforms.
Yeah, I think I can understand Yushun's point from the perspective that, for example, the example I gave out, the ink painted Jiangnan performance, to be able to put it on the live streaming platform, they are not performing the whole piece. They pick I think 11 shots featuring 27 different camera positions. and to put it on the live stream. So I think from the artsy perspective, it's a whole piece. There is a whole story going on. And when it comes to the stage design, the whole stage design comes from a concept for a purpose. But when you put it on a vertical screen, everything needs to be changed. And sort of that lose the authenticity of that play. And also when it comes to stage performance, it can be also very different from performing in front of the camera. I mean, for performers, for example, I think a lot of them talking about the need to get used to performing, to find where the camera is, which position should I go to. I need to be mindful about the position of the cameras and the angles they're being presented, which is completely different from the stage. I get that. But then on the other side, I think it's why not just let people enjoy more of beautiful shots of a very beautiful dance drama? I mean, I don't, for example, for an audience for like me, I don't have time to sit for like 2 or 3 hours every weekend for a dance drama. I would definitely love the opportunity to be able at least appreciate part of the performance on my phone on a daily basis. I would love that. And it's not saying the stage performance is destroyed now.
But that's
more accessibility.
But I think that's kind of what some people are saying, is that it is partially destroyed. In that you're not getting the full performance. You're not experiencing it the way that it was intended to be experienced.
Yeah.
So again, we're diluting this art down to a
Short video.
how long clip. You're doom scrolling you're doom scrolling in bed at night before you go to sleep, and you just stop on this gorgeous traditional performance and you next one. Isn't that disrespectful somehow?
Well, it depends. If we're talking about, for example...
I'm going to join Team Yushun for a moment.
I'm standing against you. For like a stay-at-home mom in a village in southwest China, would you blame her? Not blame her. I'm not using the right word here. But would you say it's a bad thing for her to be able to appreciate part of the 只字青绿 performance on her phone? She won't have access to the whole performance anyway.
I think the both sides just want this performing arts to be good, to be acknowledged by more people nationwide and worldwide through these short video platforms. But the thing is that we need to, in a form of making these things meaningful. If you're using just several shots of this whole show and probably even accompanied with the music that's not even belong to this whole show and making it a very exciting short video. And what is even the point of watching these dance dramas? Because dance drama is supposed to be, a complete performance that you can enjoy from the perspective of enjoy the whole design of the set, of the aesthetic movement, of the music, and also the emotion of these dancers. And if we're just watching these through several seconds, and how can we really even call it a dance drama? So
Yeah, I understand. And I agree to a certain point, but I'm going to switch off of Team Yushun
Steve.
for a moment. And you said worldwide. And I think this is an important maybe benefit that we haven't looked at yet. Yep, you can argue that you're perhaps cheapening the somehow when you cut it into clips and you put it on the internet. Okay, fine. I can also understand the argument of a lady who lives in a rural community. Like you said, Fei Fei, she's never going to get a chance to see this anyway, perhaps. So this is the only opportunity to see this. I agree with that side too. But worldwide, I'm very much interested. I've been in China for a couple of years now, and I'm very much interested in people knowing more about this country, just as I'm sure you're interested in people knowing more about China too, who aren't from here or who have never visited here before. I think when you can take something like a Peking opera or like a traditional dance performance And yep, you chop it up, and I know it's not the way that it's supposed to be viewed, but if you can put that on, and people in England or Australia or America or somewhere in Africa, and suddenly they have access to a piece of Chinese culture that maybe they didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
So that could be a window into the culture. It could be a starting point, right, for people's introduction to China. So I think you both bring up great points, but I still think ultimately it's a good thing because of the long-term potential benefits that come from it.
Yeah, another perk it brings actually when I was watching a lot of these live stream and clips of the live stream, I was thinking, what about this are they working overtime for this kind of live streaming? Because they will still have their regular stage performances, mostly happening at night, maybe on a regular basis, going around the country, and then they are doing the same performance online as well. And then I found out the performers in front of the camera for the live streaming sometimes are ones that cannot perform on the stage anymore.
Oh.
For example, an injured dancer who cannot perform on stage anymore, but she can still showcase part of her skills in front of the camera, even just shots, little bits of the whole performance. She start to get a second chance. And I think that's another perk this kind of live streaming brings.
Yeah. Easy to understand both sides, I think. Tell us how you think. Do you agree with Yushun? Have we changed your mind at all, by the way?
Not exactly.
Do you agree with Yushun in that we shouldn't be putting these beautiful traditional art performances online in short form? Or do you agree with the other side that it could be an opportunity for people to see these performances and that maybe that'll be their only chance? Or do you agree with the fact that it might be a window into Chinese culture? Tell us what you think. Roundtable podcast at QQ.com. You can share your thoughts there. Roundtable podcast at QQ.com. And as I look at the clock, we do indeed have to say goodbye. We're out of time for this edition of Roundtable, but thank you to Yushun, thank you to Fei Fei, and thank you as always for being a part of our show. I'm Steve Hatherley, and we'll see you next time.